So we got Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. Very interesting fight. I've been looking forward to this. Okay, this is a huge middleweight main event in Paris. Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho. Both guys coming in hot on good momentum, right? And this one could shake up the title picture because we already know that there is this like 4 tournaments with the middleweight division. Nassourdine Imavov, Caio Borralho, Anthony Hernandez, and René de Ridder. One of those guys is gonna fight Khamzat Chimaev. Now, I don't know if the UFC plans to put the winners between themselves and then they pick, but my prediction is whoever wins this fight is going to fight Khamzat Chimaev. That is what I feel like is going to happen. Whoever wins this fight gets to face Khamzat, because I don't think Khamzat is just gonna be sitting around waiting, right? But this is an interesting fight, man. Okay, so when we talk about Nassourdine Imavov, his last win, okay, he knocked out Israel Adesanya. Borralho, on the other hand, is undefeated in the UFC and it keeps looking better, okay? So we're going to break down their styles, their best performances, their worst performances, and how this fight will most likely play out, okay? Now, when we look at Nassourdine Imavov, nickname the Sniper, and it's very, very fitting. The guy is rangy and he's a very precise striker. He might not be the most powerful striker, right? You're not scared of Nassourdine knocking you out, even though he knocks Easy out. It wasn't really because of his strength, it's because he's so precise. He's a sharp shooter. The guy knows what he's doing and he hits the target well. Now, when it comes to his strengths, his boxing, like I said, very sharp, very precise. The accuracy is top notch. And he's improved his takedown defense a lot, but not that much. And I'll talk about that a little more. But yeah, when it comes to his weakness though, in my opinion, he's very, very bad when it comes to pressure wrestling, right? His low kicks, I feel like sometimes he forgets he has legs. He forgets to kick. He has good kicks, but he just doesn't use it. I don't get it. And sometimes when the fight keeps going longer, you can tell he keeps getting tired. That's the thing about Nassourdine Imavov. His cardio is not the best in my opinion. His best performance, like I said, no doubts, Israel Adesanya. That's the best name on his resume, and the way he did it was good. His worst performance of all people was who? Phil Hawes. I think Phil Hawes was the first person who exposed his wrestling holes, and that's gonna play a big part. Pay attention. And then Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen wasn't like his worst performance, but that's another person who exposed his weakness in the wrestling. Brandon Allen could have won the fight that he had with Imavov if he had a better fight IQ, in my opinion. But I digress. Now, Imavov has improved his pacing, his clinch defense, and you know, he keeps looking at like a more composed striker. Now, when it comes to Caio Borralho, on the other hand, in my opinion, this guy is the best fighting nerd. I know people like Jean Silva and Carlos Prates because they're very entertaining and they knock people out. So yes, entertainment wise, you can say that. But when it comes to the skill set, I think this guy is the best in my opinion. I think he's the most well-rounded, right? He's very analytical. He's very data-driven. And he's literally the creator, the co-creator of the fighting nerds. You know, the John Silvas, the Mauricio Ruffi, the Prates that everybody loves. That whole shit was his idea. And if you watch my video breaking those guys down, it's almost as if those guys are just dedicated to creating the perfect fighters. So you can tell this guy's mindset. When it comes to his strength, his southpaw stance is very, very good. His grappling is slick. He's a very good grappler. And his striking is decent. I feel like he can stand with anyone and then mix it in with the grappling. And that's what he did with Cannonier. Now, when it comes to his weakness, I don't feel like Caio Borralho has that much exposed yet, but still somewhat untested against elite strikers. The most elite striker he's faced was Jared Cannonier, and he got tagged a lot. Now, I've seen a bunch of people say, oh man, Caio Borralho is going to lose because he's very hittable. It's like, bro, that's not a reason why someone would lose. Unless you're fighting someone like Ilia Topuria or Francis Ngannou, right? but it is a weakness. Now, his best performance, of course, Jared Cannonier. That was a gruesome fight. And I don't know. I just feel like it's been over a year since we saw that fight, which says a lot about his inactivity, but we'll see. We'll see. Now, his most violent performance was definitely against Paul Craig, and he's improved his striking confidence, his cardio management, and game planning. Now, when we compare these guys, right, a height difference is there. Imavov is taller, but they're the same reach, so that's not that much of an impact. Imavov is the rangy striker. Borralho is the stocky grappler. So Imavov is the better striker. Borralho is the better grappler. They're canceling each other, kind of. Now, in my opinion, both guys are kind of durable. They're tough. They can take hits. Even though Imavov tends to get tired, he still has a good chin, right? But if we're really comparing them, I feel like Borralho may be slightly stronger physically. Now, these guys, when they come together, man, first of all, it's going to be a striking battle. Imavov has the speed and the precision. Borralho, on the other hand, is more of a counter striker. He's patient, but very hittable, like I said. When it comes to the wrestling, Borralho will test Imavov's improved striking takedown defense. And that's a big weakness in Imavov's arsenal, in my opinion. Imavov is aggressive early. He pushes you backwards, while Borralho takes his time to analyze you, break down, and then decides if he wants to be the one putting in the pressure or if he wants to be taking the back seat. Now, Imavov is offense first. Borralho is a problem mid-fight. He improves. He's like Imavov. Borralho reminds me of Piotr Yan. You know, there's a high possibility they would win. They will lose the first round, but going forward, best believe he's gonna correct his mistake. Now, Imavov's danger zone is, I mean, they're fighting in France, right? So he's fighting in his turf, right? He's gonna have that crowd energy. Combine that with his striking sharpness. The guy will be he'll be confident, right? But I just feel like going as the fight keeps going, maybe like around round 3, the momentum will start shifting to Borralho, especially when he starts instilling that grappling. Right, Borralho has a good grind game, man, and versus Imavov's stamina improvements, that's probably gonna be a problem. Like I said, Imavov is gonna have the crowd on his side, possibly the judges on his side. So I don't think this is a fight that Caio Borralho would want to go to a decision or try to make it close. It's easy to say, yeah, Imavov would have the psychological edge, but Borralho is tough, man. This is someone who thrives on being the underdog. But speaking of underdog, we're going to get into that because it's really a pick and fight. It's really a pick and fight. So at the end of the day, it's just about this is a typical striker versus grappling fight. Now, like I said, Borralho is well-rounded, no doubts, but he thrives in the wrestling, man. It's his big strength. And it's also going to be speed versus strength. Right? The home favorite versus the spoiler. And this really comes down to whether Imavov can keep it clean on the feet or Borralho being able to drag him into deeper waters. Like when we look at the odds, it's really a pick 'em. Imavov is the favorite. And I'm happy because but my prediction is I'm picking Caio Borralho to win this fight, man. A lot of people are sleeping on Caio Borralho. In fact, I've noticed that Caio Borralho is like the most slept on fighting nerd. Like people dismiss this guy for some reason. Now I remember watching this guy from Contender Series, and it was really funny. He fought twice in Contender Series. The first time he fought, he beat his opponent, but it was like a boring decision. But this guy had this long ass speech and started crying and being emotional, acting like he already got signed. And then when he came to the signing, then I was like, nah.
What the fuck is that?
That shit was funny. But then he came again, put on a better performance, and had a finish. Since then, he's had a thriving UFC record. Like, look at this guy's record, bro. Clean, undefeated. Like I said, his opponents keep getting better. But of course, beating Paul Craig is whatever. Like, you know, it's Paul Craig. Cannonier, very, very good win, right? But he's a dominant fighter. He hasn't been in any fight where it was controversial, where you're like, nah, he wasn't supposed to win. Nassourdine Imavov has had like a silent career for the most part. Like people really didn't care about him until he fought Joaquin Buckley, and then he lost to Sean Strickland. He kind of had an inconsistent run, but he's been looking better as well. And like I said, he really looked good against Israel Adesanya. But it really comes down to that wrestling, man. It really comes down to that wrestling. I see a lot of people picking Imavov to win. I feel like people are being biased. I feel like it's a combination of, oh yeah, he beat Izzy and people don't like Izzy, so they're rooting for Imavov type stuff, because he's a sharp striker, good striker, not downplaying it, not saying it's an easy pick. Like I said, it's a pick 'em fight. But his wrestling is so trash. His wrestling defense is trash. Like, if he had problems with Brendan Allen, right, and had problems with freaking Phil Hawes, granted, Phil Hawes was a long time ago, he's probably better, but Brendan Allen fight wasn't that long ago, right? It really wasn't. I think Caio Borralho is going to give him serious problems with the wrestling. I think he's going to give him serious problems with the wrestling, and then mixing that with the fact that he can actually stand tall and have a decent striking fight with him is going to be worse. It's going to be worse for him. And in my opinion, Caio Borralho is the tougher fighter. I think he's that type of fighter where he might lose the first 2 rounds, but he'll still come back. He doesn't give up. Nassourdine Imavov, in my opinion, when he starts losing rounds and you keep the pressure on him, he literally declines. I've never watched a Imavov fight where, oh yeah, he was looking trash at the beginning, but he improved. It's always the opposite. It's either he's looking good from the beginning to the end, or he's looking bad and it went downhill. Like his fight against Izzy, at some point Izzy was taking over that fight, which is so annoying. Izzy's last 2 losses with Dricus and Imavov, at some point he was taking over the win, and they just put him out, right? Izzy got caught bad against Imavov, but it was a nice knockout, very precise from Imavov. So I think Borralho is going to take this. I think it's going to be probably a close fight, but I think that wrestling will play into fact, and I think he's going to pressure the hell out of Imavov. And I really do think Caio Borralho is going to be Khamzat's first challenger, and that's going to be a good fight. But yeah, that's what I think, man. You guys tune in on Wednesday for the full card breakdown.